Hey residents of MeepleTown, today John and I are taking on the role of different characters. We're going to be exploring maps, we're going to be gaining items, we're going to be using those items, ultimately to find out what our destiny is in the game.
Hold up, before you finish. I need to express something to you. Dean? Make sure. You are my density. I mean... my destiny.
Let's get to the table and check out Destinies. Okay, here is the setup for the initial scenario for Destinies. I don't think I'm really showing many spoilers. This is really just the initial setup, and I'm just going to explain how the game plays as opposed to really playing through anything like we normally do, just because I don't want to show any spoilers for the game, even though there's lots of different areas that can be explored. This is the initial setup. So basically we're going to start off, and I've got this set up for a two-player game. We've got the noble character, and this is the character card for the noble. The backside shows the different destinies that they could potentially be reaching. Same thing for the huntsman over here. They both start off with these two dice, and then they're going to have these, I forget what they're called. They're going to have these other three dice that they can use kind of as modifiers if they have those. They start off, they're exhausted, so we don't have these available. However, when you start your turn, you're going to be refreshing an effort die, and that's going to show you on the app. So you're going to take this, put it here. So now this is available whenever you roll your different test. For all of these three different things, you can use this purple die as a modifier for that. We also have these coins, these experience points, I'll explain that in a minute, and then these different marking places that are going to go out onto the board, showing you that those are places that you can interact with. We also have these cards up here, lots of different items that you're going to be acquiring and interacting with throughout the game. So on your turn, all you're going to do is it'll start off, so the noble will take their turn. Again, they're starting off in this little town center here with this character that is at the church here. The noble's going to take their turn. They'll hit OK after they refresh their effort die. Oh, effort die. Effort die. And so that will just go right here, showing that you now have that available. And then this is going to show you what you can interact with. So on your turn, you can move if you would like, and you can move up to 2 spaces, and that is orthogonally adjacent spaces. So I can go, if I'm here, once this is flipped over, if I go here, then that will be my movement that I can take that action, or here, but I cannot go diagonal. After you do that, then you can interact with the different something in the tile that you're on. So in this case, I could click to interact with this character that is at the church. And so then this would say visit the church. And let's say I did that. Again, not really spoilers because you're probably going to be doing that anyway. I'm just going to show you kind of what is entailed there. So it has this flavor text up at the top that you can read if you'd like. You can skip over this all if you want. Then you can pray, you can steal money from the offering box, you can ask the character that's in there what troubles him, the priest that's in there what troubles him, and then you can also ask the priest about your destiny. So you're going to be interacting with the different areas that you're in. As you're traveling out to these other locations, then you'll be able to interact with a lot of other places at that location. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about how the test works. So let's say I were to steal money from the offering box, and that shows that I need to have an agility test. And I'm not going to full on do this, but automatically you get these 2 dice to roll, and these have numbers 1 through 4 on them. There's only 1 4, and you'll roll these, and that will determine the number that you have. Actually, a 3 and a 4 is really good. That's a 7. So I look over here and I see on the 7, what are the markers on here that are left of that 7, so or less than, and I have 1. That means I would have 1 success, and I would enter that in as 1 success, confirm it, and then see what happens after that. Now again, I have these effort dice, and so as I'm building these up, if I wanted to, I can roll, even though I just have 1, I can roll that. I could have rolled it with that. I don't get to roll it after, but I can roll it with it, and this would say that I have 9, and now I have 2 successes here because I have 2 of these markers to the left. The effort dice also have, if you can see this on here, they also have this little symbol on there, meaning that that's a success. So let's say I had rolled this right here, a 7 and then a success. I would have 7 here, so it's just 1. success, but then this counts full on as a success. So in this case, had this marker been here in the 7 spot, then I actually would have 3 successes, 1, 2, and then this one as my 3rd success. And so it's possible to get, more than, much more than what is, even what your markers are if you're rolling your different effort dice that you have available. And then one of the things that's going to happen is as you're interacting with these different locations, sometimes you'll have things that will give you these experience points. You can trade these in. If I have this in, I can trade this in, and then I can move 2 of these markers to the left, and it can be the same one, or if I can move this one. Let's say I move the power one, then I move my intelligence one, and now I'm stronger in those areas. So when I test, then I'll be able to have a higher rate of success as those numbers drop down. The other side of the coin is that sometimes bad things are going to happen, or you're not going to, you might fail a test or something like that, and that will cause you to move to the right of some of these different attributes that your character has. And so let's say I fail a test and it says now you lose 1 power, so I go up there. But oftentimes you're actually going to lose power but also gain experience points, which will help you to move down in these different areas. So these are going to be shifting throughout the game, and as they move to the left, obviously your character gets more powerful. What you're trying to do is you are trying to complete a destiny. There's 2 options for the different destinies for your character, and you're going to be exploring, interacting with people, discovering more about those destinies, and then finding the items or finding whatever you need for being able to complete your destiny. And once you do that, then you're going to go to the location where it has you go, and then you're going to complete your destiny. If you succeed in that, if you go through those different tests, then you will be victorious in the game. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning. I know I'm going to mention it. John and I will mention it in the final thoughts. This is a competitive game. That's something that is a little bit new. So it's RPG story-driven elements that are competitive. I am trying to figure out and succeed in my destiny before this other player does, and if I do, then I'm going to win the game. It's not something you're going to win together as a unit. And that kind of gives you a gist. I also didn't mention, so if you've played Chronicles of Crime, you're going to see these QR codes on these different locations. You will be able to interact. So let's say I have a sword and there's somebody that I want to fight on here. It's not an option here, but let's say there's a character that I want to fight. It might allow me to scan my sword and then fight the person that I'm going to fight with the sword. And so these items are going to have, they're going to be interacting with the app as well to show that you have them. Sometimes it'll be, a bow. You might want to use that in hunting, but also they will have different abilities at the bottom. So the sword says in a power test, if I don't roll any, in a power test, don't roll any of your dice, and instead your roll total is going to be a 10. So you just discard this card, and then you automatically get a 10 in your roll. Now these are both discard ones. Some of them are always abilities. So there might be anytime you roll a certain number, if it's not a great number, you're going to get an automatic success in that. So there's a ton of cards. I actually don't even have all of them over here on the table, but you can see this is probably, I don't know, maybe not even half of the cards. And I'm not going to show you all of those, but there's lots of different items, and they're going to interact in different ways with the different locations and different people that you're going to come across on the board. Sometimes you'll come across maybe a shop, and you'll be able to use these coins to buy different items at the shop, or you can sell items that you have, and that will allow you to gain the gold that's listed up here on the top right hand side. So sometimes you might be giving money to people, sometimes you might be giving money to gain items. There's lots of different things. This is very much a sandboxy game. Lots of different things are going on, but I think that kind of gives you a gist of it without giving too many spoilers. It just kind of gives you a flavor of the game and kind of what it's going for. So let's talk about the art and components. All right, that's how we play the game briefly. I'm not showing too much there, but let's...
Not showing too much, just only your briefs.
Not showing all of our cards, literally. Let's talk about the art and components. What do you think?
What do you think?
What do you think?
Well, let's look at the box.
All right.
Okay, so I will admit that while I like the art and components, the box art didn't super I mean, it's actually well done. I don't know.
Look at that thing on there.
I know, but I don't know why it didn't draw me in. I think it's the color palette, maybe, or something.
Okay.
You know me. I really like great color palettes.
I think part of it is, the key focus on the box is this, like, Angel of Death kind of creature.
But it's kind of black, not blacked out. It's kind of blurred.
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
It's got that faded look where it's like it's in the.
I think if that would have been brought to the foreground, it might have like grabbed my attention more. But besides that, I really like. I mean, I like it. It's good.
I think this, like, looking at the cover of this box tells me what this game is essentially. Like, that's the part that draws me in. I know that. This is some sort of an adventuring, questing type of game, and that's exactly what it is. But what about the rest of the components? I mean, there's honestly...
The cardboard is super thick in this game.
Yeah.
The art is really well done. I like the art on the player board. I like the art on the cards that come out there. It's really good. And the minis, plenty of them, but they're called minis for a reason.
Very mini. It's in the same. If you've ever played Seventh Continent, it's those same really small miniatures that you're going to be putting out on the map.
I wonder if they can see that.
That's
like fingernail mini right there.
I get why it's done that way, and actually,
I don't hate it. Actually.
I think that's the way that it should be in this style of games,
like
because as the map kind of unfolds.
It's going
to be too much. Those are like different locations that you're going to go to with those miniatures. And I will say that maybe one negative with that is that there's not a whole lot to distinguish between your character and the ones that are on the board. And so sometimes, like, this is a really small deal, but like John's character, who was the witch in the last game that we played, matched up with pretty closely with one of the characters that came out.
Marker for player marker on them.
Yes,
that'd be super simple to do.
Yeah. So just something to consider. But overall, I mean, this game has a lot of cards.
Should we pull out the Big Daddy, or is that just like, or do we just kind of want to like?
Yeah, let's let.
You
can see the difference in the size.
That's what I wanted to show. Here, I'll hold up this guy, boy, or vice versa.
Which is like
they're not all mini, but I actually, when I was talking about minis and saying they're mini, I think it's a good thing because it doesn't take up too much space.
This is mini.
Look at that thing.
Can you imagine being this dude and coming upon that guy? Look at that.
I am the Lord, the Dark Lord of Death. I don't even know who this is because we haven't played that campaign.
We're talking about our components. We're not playing. It's not toy time, John.
Pew, 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 pew.
There's a lot of cards in the game, which is what you expect because it's heavily driven by the items that you're going to get from the.
In to destroy. All right.
Heavily driven by the cards that you're going to get, the items that you're going to get throughout the game. In the same vein as like Chronicles of Crime. I mean, it's hard to not compare these games at all. This is basically a lot of cards like you see in Chronicles of Crime that you're going to scan, but it also has a ton of miniatures and other things. So overall, I like the art and components.
Absolutely. And one last thing to talk about is the app, I think. We can talk about that during the gameplay, but the app is done super well.
Yeah.
It's got really great voice acting. It looks super professional. They did a fantastic job and put a ton of time into the app.
All the mood music, the background music is really well done.
So good.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right, above gameplay, does it match up?
Okay, you may go first since you went first on art and components.
I do.
This is not my style of game generally, right? Like, so if you follow MeepleTown, if you don't, I'll just let you know I'm more of like a dry, classic Euro guy, puzzly type of a game. So this is not totally my jam, but this is a very well-designed game.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like, the story captivates you because, like, it's not just, so this is not just like a Gloomhaven game where you're going out and you're battling monsters and doing stuff like that. And I don't say just like, I actually prefer Gloomhaven. But anyways, it's not a game like that. It's more kind of trying to figure out the puzzle of I need to go here and search for this and get this item to do this, or go talk to this person, do this, and you're trying to beat your opponents and figure that out before them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was like that, and I was pleasantly surprised because it felt different than some of those other games, and I like that part about it.
Yeah. I think it's one of those games. So exploration is a big part of this game, which is great. I really love exploration games. But what I like, there's several things I like about this game. This is my jam. These type of games are right up my alley. But one thing I like is that the story isn't linear. You know what I mean? Like, you can go anywhere that you want to go, and it's not like you have to follow this certain path. Like, you're all trying to figure out what your destinies are and to complete your destinies, right? Like, that's the goal. But the way that you get there, there's lots of different paths that you can go, and if John goes somewhere that really is intriguing for me and might help me with my destiny, that's going to open up some more options for me to maybe go that way. So I really enjoy that piece of it. Again, that it's not linear, that you don't have to just follow this one single storyline.
Yeah, it's pretty wide open, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it feels good to explore and open those tiles. And I'm going to go here, and then it flips over. And you're like, okay, this is unlocked, and this is unlocked. And you look at the app, and you decide which thing you want to go to.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I also like the way that you do your the dice roll. And what is that? The play board. What are those called? I don't even remember.
Like for your test that you do?
Yeah, when you're doing the test, like you have the 3 different kinds. And so... like, I think that actually works really, really well. And it's simple. That's the one good thing about this game.
Goodness.
You can cut that out or keep it in. Another good thing about this game is it's so easy to teach.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like picking up a video game because you have the app to drive it and stuff. It's not hardly anything to really teach. You just kind of... just dive in and start moving pieces around and go and explore and click on the app and you go do that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's funny because there's so many pieces that I really want to talk about, but I don't want to spoil any of it. But there's some pieces like in this. It is, again, it's story driven, but it's not like it's not like there's not any game there, right?
Sure.
Deciding which pieces you're going to move down so that you can get better at your different skills. No, it's not like those are super crunchy decisions. But there are some decisions to be made there.
Sure.
And there are some things that might make you feel clever in this game. So, like, there was a time when I was like, I know that I need to do this thing because I've interacted with this character. And then John interacts with this thing over here. And I'm like, oh, those go together. So I need to go do this thing so that I can interact with this thing again. And it's, again, that's super vague.
Yeah.
But it happens a decent amount in this game where you can kind of feel clever. And if the other players aren't paying as much attention, they might not know that these two things work alongside each other. And I like that. I think it kind of, what it does is it should hold your attention even when it's not your turn.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a negative, that's not a negative, but a negative part of this game can be that your turns can be fairly lengthy. Sometimes they can be super short, but sometimes they can be a little lengthy. And if you're not paying attention to what the other player's doing, you're just kind of sitting there. But here's the thing, you should be paying attention to what the other players are doing.
But it is easy to zone out.
It is.
I mean, you can take turns that last, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, it's easy to, be sucked in initially. Like, hey, what is he or she going to? I want to see what's going on. And then they start getting into the tests, so they're rolling their dice and all that kind of stuff, and you kind of check out. And which happened. I think both of us did that.
Yeah.
And we were, interested in playing this, of course. And I don't know. It doesn't have to be like that. Like if you're super all enthralled in it, but that was a negative for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd want to play it at 3 because I think there'd be too much downtime. There's times where I was just I was kind of bored, honestly.
Okay, because it wasn't like you
because I
weren't
wasn't
doing the thing.
actively doing the thing, and it was taking a minute, and you would select this, and you would do this. That doesn't happen on every turn, but yeah, there was enough time. There was enough of those moments where I was kind of like, But when I was doing it, it was a blast.
But when you're actually taking your turn.
Yeah, when I was taking my turn, I had a great time doing all that.
Yeah, I liked knowing what was going on the other. In fact, so at the end of the last game that we were playing, there was something that I knew that I needed to. I knew there was a place that I needed to go to because I interacted with something, and then I'm like, oh, I remember John interacting with that thing earlier, and so I had to go. Now, had I not been paying attention, I would have had no idea how to get that item that I needed.
And that happened too, and
when
I was doing that whenever you had done something, and then I went and explored and I found the exact thing. It was pretty lucky for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Before you could even get to it, so that's a thing. Okay, so one of the things that, again, I like about the game is this feels like a. It doesn't feel to me like an RPG type game. It feels more like a deduction game that has like those type of elements.
Is that a bad thing?
Or no, that's a good thing.
Okay.
Because it felt different than some of the other games. So that's like, I agree with Dean. That's where the cleverness comes in, is trying to figure out, oh, well, this person, maybe I should go explore over here to try to find this, to do this, to then take it back to that person. Then you feel clever about that element of it. So I like that about the game.
Yeah, and I think I'll just kind of touch on one more thing, because this is a big part of the game, but it is a competitive game and not a cooperative game, which is very unique. I don't know. I think even on the box it claims that it's like the first of its kind. Most of these games, there's Sleeping God, Seventh Continent, Gloomhaven, all these are cooperative, fun games, cooperative though. But what the competitive element does for me is it adds this element of tension that those other games don't offer, because I know that John might be getting close to completing his destiny, and I'm like, okay, I really have to hunker down, and it becomes this race. It is a race, it's a race to get done first before the other people. But it adds tension that some of those cooperative games don't necessarily have.
I agree, and I also, along those lines, I feel like that really amps up as the game progresses.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the game got more interesting the closer we were feeling like we were getting, and I was watching Dean and watching mine, and going, okay, I've got to get this faster than he does, then he's going to get it. So let's go to final thoughts.
Yeah, so let's move into final thoughts.
Yeah, I was talking over you there, I think, almost.
No,
we kind of talked at the same time.
You like that?
Actually, you talked over me because you were louder than me.
Okay, then you should go first.
Final thoughts. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is not super my style of game, but I do really enjoy how I just like that deduction, trying to figure out how the pieces are going to work together, and I like how this game is competitive. I think that's kind of neat. Sorry, the way that and I mentioned this earlier, but I just mentioned a few things just for the people that skip forward, but I like the way the actions take place, and I like how simple this game is to teach. Now, personally, I would like a little more puzzly nature, a little bit more depth or whatever to make me personally really, really like this, but this is one that I could just get out with just about anyone that's interested in, this type of a game, I think. And I think the weight on BGG is like 1.9 or something, and I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
Because the app works so well, it reminds me, again, of like playing a video game. You pick it up and you can just kind of go with it. Some people who don't play games, it might take them a little bit to kind of begin to roll with it, but man, it's really well done. Now, this isn't my jam. This isn't a game that this is the hard part about the BGG ratings for me, because 7 means I'm usually willing to play this. 6 means I want to play this if I'm in the mood. I'm probably more like I would play this if I was in the mood, just because absolutely personal taste. The same way that someone might really like a classic Euro, even though they don't like Euro games and they would prefer games like this, they might not really be in the mood that often to play those games, but if they did, they would play that. So this is a tough thing. I'm not usually willing to play it, but it's so well designed, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And usually willing to play. If someone wanted to play a game in this vein, yes, I would usually be willing to play it. So that's a really high score, I think, for someone who doesn't generally love these types of games. It's extremely well designed. I know why the hype train is going, actually.
Yeah.
I was expecting to kind of be disappointed, but I'm like, no, I get it. I get why everyone's excited about this one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now I want to see you try Chronicles of Crime, because I don't know if you'd like that necessarily, but it kind of be in that same vein maybe. But the action system of that is really similar to this, and I like it. Anyway, and that is a game that I like quite a bit. Now this is a genre that I really do enjoy.
Super up your alley.
I put this in that Sleeping Gods and the Seventh Continent and Gloomhaven, all those that kind of category. And this one I really enjoy. I like. It
feels different about those though, huh?
It does. Now I would say if I'm going to compare this to any of those, I would say Sleeping Gods is probably the closest, although Seventh Continent, it has some of that feel too. I feel like this is more sandboxy than what Seventh Continent is. Even though Seventh Continent, you can do whatever you want, but you still have kind of this path. You still have this path, but you don't know how to get there, and there's lots of different ways that you could get there.
You like trying to figure stuff out like that.
I do like that a lot. You mentioned that this has that feel of like a deduction type of game, and that is a piece of this that I really like. Yeah. But the thing that really makes this stand out is that competitive nature that adds this level of tension that some of those others don't. It's just, I really like that. I think it's cool, and I want to play through like everything of Destiny. So for me, I'm going to give this an 8.5, which is a really, really good score. And in fact, it's the same score that I gave Sleeping Gods, because I feel like I love these games, but I feel like those are very similar in nature. There's some things about this that I like better. I like the competitive nature. I like it's not as much of a table hog as Sleeping Gods. I like that you don't have as much to manage. You're just managing one character. But then there's some other things that I like about that game too. But anyway, really, really enjoy this game, and I highly recommend it if you like RPG-driven board games. I really think that this is so unique in the competitive nature that you got to check this one out.
But it doesn't feel super RPG a little bit.
You said it didn't, or did it?
I don't think it does feel super RPG. I mean, it does have some elements to it, though. But what I was actually going to say...
I would disagree, but that's...
No, it does.
I get what you're saying.
It feels like... I mean, Well, I guess it depends on what kind of RPG. Yeah, I'm going to disagree with myself.
Like you're
Sorry.
test rolling and it's
Yeah,
super
I'm
heavy story driven.
wrong. Erase what I just said. But what I was actually going to point out that we didn't mention real quick before we end the video is that this is a long game.
Yeah.
Right, so this is like a 2.5 hour, 2.5 hour long game. Now you can pause it, but that could be a negative for some people. That's why I want to mention it. You're not going to finish one of these in an hour or an hour and a half, probably.
Sure. If you have a table to set this up on, kind of leave it there.
Yeah.
If it might take you a couple nights, I highly recommend doing it all in one go so that everything's fresh in your mind. But anyway, that's high praise from me. 8.5. That is a 7 from John, which is also high praise considering this is not his style of game. Tell people how they can get in touch with us.
If you're enjoying our channel, we'd love for you to subscribe to it. If you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/MeepleTown. You can go to @MeepleTown Games on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're Board Game Geek Guild 3407.
Thanks for coming down to MeepleTown. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow us on Twitter @MeepleTown Games, and connect with us on the MeepleTown Guild, Guild number 3407, at BoardGameGeek.com, and also subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And until next time, thanks for coming down to MeepleTown.